好了，有声音了。
Okay. Yeah, let me introduce our distinguished speaker from Mahidol University, Professor Dr. Jarugool Tretriluxana. Actually, she received a PhD from University of South California. And also, more importantly, professionals, usually we say that doctor of physical therapy from University of Montana. It's quite unique. And Professor Jarugool actually is a prominent researcher, academic, and physical therapist, especially in Thailand. And her career achievements are heavily centered around neuro rehabilitation, physical therapy, motor learning, and neuroplasticity, focusing on improving attributive functions, like reaching, grasping individuals, receiving from strokes. And further, her major professional and academic achievement include high-impact research in neuro rehabilitation and stroke recovery. She is widely recognized for her research investigating how the brain reorganizes itself, neuroplasticity, event recovery, and how targeted physical therapy can accelerate this process. Especially in brain stimulation. I think Professor Jarugool will introduce this special area today. And she has successfully combined traditional physical therapy with advanced brain stimulation techniques such as repetitive transcranial magnetic stimulation, RTMS, showing that low frequency stimulation of the lung-damaged side of the brain can be significantly improved functionality in chronic stroke patients. We also have a diversified contribution, to human movement science, including sports science and ankle instability, autism spectrum disorder, and musculoskeletal health. And actually, she has a strong academic standing and citation metrics, especially she has published many papers in top-tier journals, such as experimental brain research, neuro rehabilitation and neuro repair, and physical therapy in sports. And Professor Jarugool also received a lot of awards. Right now, he also not only dean of faculty of physical therapy in Mahidol University, he also the director of motor control and neuroplasticity laboratory. Let's welcome Professor Jarugool and welcome. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Professor Hu. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me, and I would like to express my sincere thanks to the Taiwan-Thailand Scientific Research and Technological Innovation Center for having me to share with you all today. Right. So I heard from June that there are some Thai biomedical students, right, from Mahidol and MITL. So and also students from National Cheng. So very nice to see you all. Okay. So let me use maybe 45 minutes, share with you my, I'm not that expert or anything, but just to share with you my experience about technology named Transcranial Magnetic Stimulation, okay, and how it is used to promote quality of life of the patient. Okay, so if I'm going too fast or if you have any question, please feel free to ask me. Okay. Can you see the slide clearly?
Yeah, you can see the slide clearly.
Okay, good. All right. So as I mentioned earlier, today we'll be sharing with you all about technology named Transcranial Magnetic Stimulation. All right, and then I will use the abbreviation TMS. Okay, as for short. All right. So with my experience of about 20 years of using this technology, I will share with you all about what it is, okay, how it works, what are the modes of TMS, and what are the parameters or variable that we could use, how it could be modulate the central nervous system. And with the same as some other technology, there might be some adverse events and contraindications if you use it not correctly. And then I think this is very exciting topic. At the end, I will share with you how we could use TMS for physical therapy. Okay. All right. So what is it? Okay. So TMS is a non-invasive neuroimaging method, okay, that can use to study the brain, or we can call it cortical motor excitability. So how does it work? It's very easy. It uses the concept of Michael Faraday, okay, that he proposed quite a while ago, that if you have two copper coils acting as an inductors, okay? The first coil on the left-hand side is called primary coil, all right? And then the second one is called secondary coil. So based on his concept is that if you induce the electricity in the primary coil, it would then induce electromagnetic induction in electromagnetic field, thereby induce electricity in the secondary coil. Okay, so everyone with me now? Now, if we then thinking about the secondary coil is the brain now. All right. So if you put the stimulating coil onto the cortex of our us, okay? So place the coil on our motor cortex. Then the thinking about the cortex is acts as a secondary coil. All right. So we use the stimulating coil placing on the motor area, for example, the motor area that control the hand movement. Think about the hand movement, okay? So if we stimulate, then it will induce electricity in the primary motor cortex. Thereby, it is an action potential. If you place electrode on the muscle that you stimulate, you will see EMG, the EMG, electromyography, on that muscle. So if you place the electrode on the muscle, you will see EMG. And this EMG on the right-hand side is called motor evoked potential, okay? So motor evoked potential is an EMG that was evoked by TMS, all right? So this is how TMS works. So everyone with me? Good. All right. Good. So let's move to, so how old is TMS? Okay. So it was founded in 1985, which is what? Almost 40 years. It's actually 40 years ago already, by an engineer, okay, an engineer in the UK. So from the picture here, you will see that on the left-hand side is Lisa Jelinas, and then on the right-hand side, he's Tony Parker. So these two people actually is a co-founder of a company right now, okay, in the market. So the TMS itself has been changing. So this is right now how it looks, and you can search in the Google or internet, and you see a variety of how TMS look like. Okay, but this is the current shape of the TMS. So it's already available 40 years, so it's not that new. It's already mature, right? So if you ask me, is a TMS a new machine? No, it is not. It's already available, already 40 years old. So if you compare TMS, as I mentioned earlier, TMS is one of the imaging tool, okay? But it is very special because it is a non-invasive technique. What does it mean by non-invasive? You don't need to cut the skull. You don't need a needle. So it can call a painless neuroimaging technique, okay? So I like this slide a lot because it's showing you a comparison amongst all the imaging tools, all right? On my right, on the x-axis here, we are looking at spatial resolution. So are we measuring at a cell level, or are we measuring at a cell column, or at the whole brain? All right. So this is called spatial resolution. On the y-axis here is a temporal resolution. All right. So are we seeing a response within millisecond, second, an hour, a day? Oh, okay, let's wait a year and then we see a response. Okay. All right. So we already have two dimension, right? Spatial versus temporal. So the third dimension, like, okay, towards the screen or out of the screen, it is called interference versus correlation. All right, let's go one by one, okay? So TMS have an intermediate spatial resolution. It is not measuring one single cell. No, no, no. It measures the activity of a cell column of corticospinal tract. So I can say that TMS had intermediate spatial resolution. It's not the best, but it's given okay, just an okay spatial resolution. How about temporal? Okay. But this TMS, on the other hand, have an excellent temporal resolution. What does that mean? If you place a stimulating coil on your brain, and for example, on the muscle of the hand muscle, you will see a movement of your hand within millisecond, okay? Compared to functional MRI, is that the way MRI work is opposite of the TMS, okay? So with TMS, you stimulate the brain and you see the action. But with functional MRI, you lie down in the scan, you move your hand, and then you see the activation, all right? Within seconds. So I can say that TMS had a better temporal resolution when compared with functional MRI, okay? Now, how about the third dimension? TMS, as I said, work as interference, meaning that if you place TMS on the brain, it will induce the action. It's opposite of functional MRI. You move your hand or your leg, and then you see the activation, all right? So TMS work in the opposite direction as MRI, okay? Now, this slide show you the y-axis is the number of publication, okay, about TMS, and the x-axis here is the year since 1985. So and now in this graph it's 2008, but you can do Google search or any search engine right now. The number of publication about TMS is 1,000, right? So as you can see here, TMS is very popular, all right? Very remarkable popular. How come is like that? I think there are three reasons. One, TMS, it talk about the cost. is affordable. Okay. Number two, it has some benefits for sure. Okay. And third, it's not that difficult to use. So let me, and that's why people start to use it more and more, right? Represented by the number of publications. Now, I want to introduce to you now about the stimulating coils, coil geometries, okay? So why do we need to care about the coil geometry? We do need to care because the coil geometry give us the differential effect of TMS on the central nervous system, okay? So I'm showing you here so various coil geometry. On the left, upper left, is called circular coil. On the bottom left is called figure of 8 or butterfly. It's depending on the company, but it looks like number 8. Okay. In the middle here is look like double. It's called double cone coil. All right. And the right hand side here is called edge coil. And this is on the far right corner. It is called. It looks like a helmet, right? It's called a halo coil. And you can search right now. There are several various shapes of the coil. But what's important is this. I am showing you here an X-ray of the electromagnetic field from two different coil types. Okay, the upper one is coil electromagnetic field that from the circular coil, and the bottom one is the electromagnetic field from figure of 8. Okay, the red color represents the strongest electromagnetic field. So as you can see here, a circular coil have a wider electromagnetic field. Okay, whereas figure of 8 coil have very focal density of electromagnetic field. So with these differences, what different to us as a physical therapy or as an engineer? It gives us that if you want to stimulate, for example, a larger area, for example, like a shoulder muscle, for example, you would rather use a circular coil, right? But if you want to stimulate the very small muscle, for example, like the hand muscle, it will be better to use figure of 8 coil, for example. So the bottom line here is that there are evolution of coil geometry, but if you have some limited budget, you need to be smart to pick the appropriate coil type, because different coil type give us this different electromagnetic distribution. It gives us different depth of the electromagnetic, and that it gives us a different number of pulses. So I suggest you that when you want to purchase the coil, you want to ask for a specification of each coil type. Okay, for example. Now, let me move to another factor that is very important when you want to stimulate your brain or your central nervous system. It is called TMS modes, okay? MODES modes. There are 3 modes of TMS, okay? The first one on the left side is called single pulse. The middle one is named pair pulse. And the right-hand side is called repetitive TMS. So let me explain each one, okay? Start with the single pulse, as it named, okay? Single pulse means if you deliver the pulse, it only gives you 1 pulse at a time, okay? Whereas the pair pulse means it gives you 2 pulses at a time. It's not like simultaneous. At the same time, you can vary the interpulse interval, okay? And this interpulse interval gives you differential effect. I don't have time to talk today, but if you are interested, I can talk to you more later, okay? These 2 modes, okay, single and pair pulse, they are used for evaluation. They are used for assessment, diagnosis, Okay, these two have the frequency less than 0.3 hertz. Okay, on the other hand, the repetitive TMS, which is, we can call it RTMS, these have the frequency greater than 0.3 hertz. So whenever it's greater than 0.3, it is called repetitive TMS, okay? And what's sexy about this RTMS is that it has a therapeutic effect. It's different from the first two modes. These first two used for assessment, whereas the RTMS used for treatment. Okay, so at this point, you're with me all? You're okay? Okay, good. So let me move on. What's special about this RTMS is that they have two more categories, okay? Low frequency versus high frequency. If you use it less than 1 hertz, less than equal to 1, it is called low frequency. But if you increase more than 1 hertz, it's called high frequency, okay? It is very special because these two categories have opposite effect. Opposite effect. The low frequency suppress, okay? Suppress the corticospinal excitability, whereas the high frequency enhance, okay? And actually, at the moment, they're more than that. We have conventional, which is meaning that we can change the interval that you want to modulate. But nowadays, people more like to use called pattern TMS. And at the moment, people like to use, it is called theta burst, meaning that if you deliver the pulse, it gives you 3 pulses at a time. And it have very high frequency of 50 hertz, okay? The good thing about theta burst is that it shortens the duration of the stimulation, all right? But there might be some more adverse event. I will talk about it more, okay? But let me move on, all right? Now, I have already covered about 2 things, okay? I cover the core geometry, and I already covered the modes of TMS, okay? So let me move on another topic. It's about variable, all right? So if you want to stimulate, you first want to find the hot spot. So what is hot spot? Hot spot is the representation of the brain, of the mapping of your brain, okay? Where it gives you maximum response. So I'm showing you here the hot spot of each muscle, right? This is the upper extremity and the finger muscle, which is lie on about the lateral surface of our brain, whereas the leg muscle is in the medial side of the brain. So as you can see here, the hot spot of different muscle groups have different representation. This is not surprise, right? Because our brain have motor homunculus, which is a motor mapping. So if you want to stimulate your patient, you need to find first the hot spot, okay? Then you want to find motor evoked potential. What is it? It is a response, a corticospinal excitability of the brain, okay? And you want to measure peak to peak amplitude. So the higher the peak represent the higher corticospinal excitability of your brain, okay? So you want your patient or yourself or the athlete to have the high peak-to-peak amplitude. All right. So before stimulate your patient, I think another of the most important thing is that you need to know the adverse events, okay? TMS seems to be a very beneficial tool. However, you need to know that not everyone can get stimulation, right? There are some people that cannot get the stimulation. So who are they? First, you need to be sure that TMS might cause some adverse event. For example, it might cause some headache or neck pain. It might, sorry. All right, I'm good. So, so it might cause some hearing loss, for example, but don't be too scared. If you use, for example, more than 2 to 7 kilohertz, it might cause hearing loss. But we never use more than, for example, 50 hertz. Okay, this is kilohertz. All right. It might change the mood, but this is good, right? Because TMS actually was originally used for depression. But if you stimulate only one time, there is only transient effect. But this is the last column here is very, very, very important, right? If you use very high frequency TMS, it might cause seizure. So in order to be safe to the patient, this is an contraindication. You need to ask your patient if they have the history of seizure or not, or their family member have history of seizure or not. If they have history of seizure, no stimulation, okay? This is contraindication. The second contraindication is that if they have metal or electrical implant in the area that you want to do the stimulation. For example, if they have some aneurysm clip or a VP shunt at the site that you want to stimulate, no stimulation, okay? If they wear cochlear implant, deep brain stimulation, no TMS stimulation, all right? The third one is cardiac pacemaker, but this is a little bit tricky. If your patient wear pacemaker that is MRI compatible, it is okay to receive TMS, okay? But if it's not MRI compatible, you need to ask them. If it is not, then I don't want, I think it's very, it's a precaution to stimulate. So I strongly suggest you to read these TMS safety guideline. Okay, you need to follow expert guideline. So the latest guideline is 2021. They say that if you use figure of 8 coil, it is okay if the patient wear pacemaker. Okay, and there is always an update. So I suggest you, if you want to use TMS, you need to read the safety guideline. Okay, all right. So let me use maybe last 5 minutes to talk about the treatment effect of TMS, okay? As I told you earlier, the TMS that can be used for treatment, it is called repetitive TMS or rTMS, okay? And with rTMS, we can categorize into 2 categories. Low frequency, less than 1 hertz, it is called lower frequency. It depress, okay? On the other hand, if you use high frequency, okay, more than 1 hertz, it enhance. And the mechanism is already established. I don't have time to talk about it in detail, but if you wanted to, interested to talk about it, I can send you the reference, all right? Now, how these repetitive TMS can be help our stroke patients. So let's talk about stroke patients, all right? So on the left-hand side is our brain, okay? Meaning that we have a balanced hemispheric interaction. The size of the arrow here represents a balanced interhemispheric interaction, all right? But after stroke, for example, in this case, there's a stroke like a white oval here on the left hemisphere. So what happened? It will lead to an imbalanced interhemispheric communication in a way that the good hemisphere or the undamaged hemisphere will have a bigger influence on the damaged hemisphere. And this phenomenon is called overexcitability. So how could TMS can be helped with the patient? You can do it two ways, okay? You could either use high frequency to stimulate on the damaged hemisphere, right? Because remember, high frequency upregulate, right? Or you could also use a low frequency on the good hemisphere or undamaged hemisphere to suppress, okay? And there are literature has already established. You can look at the reference, including myself, okay? So I originally, like 20 years ago, start with low frequency, okay? Low frequency apply on the good hemisphere, right? And it increase the movement. So this is just one example of our work in the lab that we use low frequency, apply on the good hemisphere. Remember, low frequency suppress. So we want to use low frequency on the good hemisphere. So there were two groups, okay? So I used the real TMS, or the control group is called sham TMS. What is sham TMS? They just hear the clicking noise, but no stimulation, okay? The active group received good TMS, the sham group no TMS, but both groups received motor training or physical therapy. So we measure pre-test and then post-test, okay? 2-week follow-up. Measure what? Measure the brain, okay? So let me show you this. Pre-test, post-test 1 and post-test 2, 2-week follow-up. Sham group in gray and then active group in blue, okay? Y-axis is a motor evoked potential. So as expected, right? When we use low frequency, it suppresses your cortical motor excitability. So you see a suppression of peak-to-peak amplitude, and it lasts for 2 weeks. So I think as a physical therapy, we want to see the movement, right? How about the movement? So I'm showing you here the movement measured by our clinical tool, okay? So the blue color represents the control group and the purple color represents the group that received TMS. So as you can see here, you see a shortened total movement time. That means they move faster, okay? In the total movement time and in the movement of the activity that's similar to the task that they were trained. And importantly, this axis, it maintained for 2 weeks. Wow. So as expected, right? You know, TMS, if you only give TMS one session, it only lasts for 1 hour. So as a physical therapy, if we give them 1 hour of training, it only lasts for a day. But when we combine the two, it lasts for 2 weeks. So this is very benefits, right? So we do more study, and if there are some other more study, you can take a look now that people start now to use both low frequency versus high frequency. So remember, if you use low frequency, you apply on the good hemisphere, right? But if you use high frequency, you need to apply on the damaged hemisphere. So there are, at the moment, it's already well established. You can take a look at the reference I gave you here. So with a limited time, I don't think I can have time to go in detail, but you can ask me any question. And I like this meta-analysis a lot. You can go ahead and take a look at it. It gather all the study over 5,000 patients using low frequency, high frequency, continuous or intermittent theta bursts, and it gives a suggestion. For example, if you ask at the moment, high frequency TMS seem to be the best candidate to improve upper extremity function. Okay, it also be the best candidate for severe stroke. But if you want to apply for acute and subacute patient, you would rather use intermittent theta burst. So I don't want you to use this as a cookbook. I always tell my students and my colleagues, when we give intervention to our patient, it is not a cookbook. You need to make assessment first because every individual one is different, okay? But this is just a guideline. So with our work and with some other work, we still also continue to do the work about TMS in our laboratory. We are now doing the work for stroke. We are now we want to establish what are the optimal interventions for acute, subacute, chronic stroke. We want to find optimal intervention for mild, moderate, and severe stroke. We expanding into Parkinson's disease, and also we also expanding into using transdirect current stimulation. So with this all the evidence, we already translate the research into our physical therapy center at Mahidol University to deliver this intervention to the real patients. So we have been open the TMS clinic for over 6 to 7 years. And so it's open for public at the moment. So I would like to thank all my students, also my collaborators, both physical therapy and also biomedical engineering over Mahidol, and also I have some collaborator actually at KIMTL as well. So and open for a network from National Cheng Kung as well. So this is all the references I listed for you. And actually, if you are interested to join our workshop, we are holding actually a workshop at Mahidol University in June, and I'm with Professor Pang from Hong Kong Polytechnic. So he is our visiting professor. So he will be teaching with myself and my colleagues to do the workshop on June 16. So I keep the QR code here. If you are interested, you are invited to register and attend the workshop with me at Mahidol University. So thank you so much for attending this webinar, and very happy to take all the questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Professor Jarugool for beautiful presentation. Actually, for me, I learned a lot. Yeah. I have any idea about TMS. Yeah, through your clear presentation, I think every even including faculty learn about TMS. Okay. Right now it's time to open question for the audience. Any questions? You can raise your hand, identify yourself. No? Okay. Okay, now we get on to the question. I have a question first. Because right now, you will consider the innovation for TMS instrument. Actually, right now, I know that several available several available commercial products in the market. I don't know any improvement in terms of technology in addition to clinical application from your perspective. You know what I mean? Actually, because right now, I think you Mahidol University is supposed to use a commercial available TMS instrument, right? And even the coil, even the geometries. But because I think all students are from biomedical engineering, so they may be more interested in future trend, in terms of technology improvement in TMS in addition to clinical applications, especially right now. For example, how to implement AI for for personal therapy, even how to minimize the instrument to be used in community, even for point of care. Yeah, that's my question.
Yeah. So thank you so much. So let me repeat the question if I understand it correctly. Okay. So I think your question is about how do I see TMS as a technology, right? In the future, can be used with, for example, artificial intelligence, or what could be the future of TMS. So right. So actually, as you can see that actually TMS has some limitation. Okay, it's very difficult that TMS can be used at home. It usually right now at a laboratory or at clinic or hospital. So if in the future, if TMS can be portable, then it be smaller and it can be home use, I think that will be more beneficial to our patient. So that's one thing. Okay. The other thing is that if you use TMS along with EEG, it could be online adjustment. So the parameter, for example, intensity that we use with the patient, this is a fixed parameter. But in reality, our brain adapt all the time. So if you can combine EEG with TMS, it would then adjust online. And then if we might use some signal and AI to adjust this the cortical spinal excitability, and it can adjust online. So that would be very beneficial for the patient or for athlete, for example, in the future.
Okay, I have a second question about automation. You know that right now more and more so-called computer navigation, even for surgery, computer navigation, integration with robotic arm, even camera, visual system. So in order to reduce the therapist levels, so I think probably I have no idea. It's possible to implement that computer navigation system integrate with TMS. Then we can have a planning of treatment. Then can save a lot of labor.
Right. So actually, I have not mentioned about this. Actually, in our laboratory, we use neuronavigator system actually with TMS to localize the spot that we want to stimulate. So it's already incorporated already. Yes.
Oh, that's great.
Yes.
Okay, any question from the audience? Good job.